Hi Poke fans, Harry here, and with Mega Evolutions returning in the upcoming Pokemon Legends ZA, I thought now would be a good time to go over the top 10 strongest Mega Evolutions. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe, also leave a like and comment down below, and let's get into the video. So I'm going to be basing these top 10 strongest Mega Evolutions on a couple of things. So I'm going to be factoring in their base stat total, their new ability, also if they get a new type in their type change, and also their competitive viability in both singles and VGC. So, with all of that explanation out the way, at number 10 we have Mega Charizard Y. Now, Mega Charizard Y was a really strong Mega Evolution, especially in the early days of Mega Evolution, in the early days of X and Y, and even Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And one of the main reasons for this is because Mega Charizard Y's ability works well with its typing being a fire and flying type, and its new ability is Drought. And Drought basically is an ability that sets up harsh sunlight and buffs fire-type moves by 50%, while also weakening water-type moves by 50%, basically negating one of Mega Charizard Y's weakness. And also, Mega Charizard Y's move pool works well with this ability, because Charizard has access to a move called Solar Beam, which is a grass-type move that normally takes 2 turns to use, 1 turn to charge, and then 1 turn to actually fire off the move. However, under harsh sunlight, Solar Beam becomes a 1-turn move, meaning that not only can Charizard actually deal damage to these water types that it has already weakened with its Drought ability, Drought also makes Charizard viable against rock types. Of course, with Solar Beam being super effective against them, that would normally be a problem to Mega Charizard Y. So, as you can see, Drought is already a great help to Charizard with its typing. However, Drought doesn't stop there for it being useful to Charizard, because in competitive Pokemon, especially VGC, weather is a key part of the game. And Mega Charizard's ability, Drought, becomes great in this, because say you're in a battle with an opponent, and they decide to switch out their Pokemon for a weather setter that wants to set water, or sand, or hail. So they switch in the Pokemon that does that. So then the weather gets changed, and then you Mega Evolve Charizard, and that happens after the weather gets set. So then Charizard's ability overrides the weather that has just been set. So that also works with if they started with their weather setter as well. The weather gets set as soon as that Pokemon comes out. You Mega Evolve Charizard, and then Mega Charizard's Y weather takes over that weather. So you can see that Mega Charizard Y, with its ability activating after the weather gets set, that Mega Charizard's Y ability will almost always override the Pokemon's weather, because Mega Charizard Y's ability is happening on the first turn when it Mega Evolves, rather than happening before the first turn, which made Mega Charizard a really popular Pokemon to use. Because, as we see in competitive, Mega Charizard Y had good results. In VGC, Mega Charizard Y was on the runners-up and 5th place team in 2014. So basically the first year that Mega Evolutions were allowed in competitive Pokemon, making it sure that Mega Charizard Y was a good Pokemon right off the jump. And even though it didn't have any other results in VGC, it was able to be in OU in singles in both Generation 6 and 7. So it didn't really go down too much throughout its competitive times in Pokemon, but it was better at the start of its time rather than towards the end of Mega Evolution. So next up, in number 9, we have Mega Mewtwo X. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, shouldn't Mega Mewtwo be like number 1 or at least in the top 3? Well, I will go over a bit later why I don't think it's good. But first, let me focus on Mega Mewtwo X's strong points. So, Mega Mewtwo X gains the Fighting type in this Mega Evolution, making it a Psychic and Fighting type, which is a pretty good type combination, because they kind of balance out each other's weaknesses. So, this makes Dark moves actually neutral against Mega Mewtwo X, instead of super effective, which is what it would have been on regular Mewtwo, and Mega Mewtwo Y as well. And also, Poison moves that resist fighting are still weak to Psychic, which of course is Mega Mewtwo X's primary typing, so you can already see that they're covering each other's weaknesses. And it gets worse for fighting types going up against Mega Mewtwo X. Because now Mega Mewtwo X is a part fighting type, it gets Stab on Mewtwo's fighting type moves. So it gets like Aura Sphere is now a Stab move, so Mega Mewtwo X has that Stab to deal with Dark types. And all of this is without mentioning its monstrous 780 base stat total, making it the highest base stat total Pokemon, tied with its other Mega Evolution and Mega Rayquaza. So, again, is one of the highest base stat total Pokemon ever, and this reflects in its competitive results, with Mega Mewtwo X being in Ubers in singles in both Generation 6 and 7. But the reason Mega Mewtwo X isn't higher on this list is because of its regular form. So Mewtwo is from Generation 1, and since Generation 1, Pokemon has gone over power creep, and Mewtwo has suffered from this. And basically, power creep is that each region's Pokemon has just been getting stronger and stronger, making at least regular Mewtwo in base stat total comparison weaker than every other legendary, even compared to other Psychic-type legendaries like Solgaleo, Lunala, Calyrex Ice Rider, Calyrex Shadow Rider, meaning that these Pokemon, just in normal forms, are stronger than Mega Mewtwo X, meaning that Mega Mewtwo doesn't compete with the legendaries of later years, of the current present day, and that is seen in its VGC competitive results because it hardly has anything, and it has nothing in Worlds, so really it hasn't been able to keep up with its other legendaries. And also, its ability in Steadfast is also a point not in its favour, because Steadfast is an ability that basically raises your speed if flinched, which is kind of mediocre. Mega Mewtwo X already has an incredible speed stat, so why would it want more speed? Really, it's just a bad ability with an alright typing, and also, even though you have an amazing base stat total, it is still not comparable with other, even just Psychic-type legendaries, which is why it's number 9 on this list. And next up, at number 8, we have Mega Metagross. Now, Mega Metagross, again, like Mega Mewtwo, has one of the highest base stat totals, being 700. However, a point in its favour is that its ability basically makes its base stat total even more bonkers than it would first seem. Because you have the 700 base stat total, and even though it only gains 10 points in attack, making its attack stat 145, which is nothing to scoff at, it's not bonkers. However, with its ability Tough Claws, it actually makes this attack stat a lot more impressive, because Tough Claws is an ability that boosts moves that make direct contact by 30%. So, this of course makes Mega Metagross's attacks, especially its direct contact moves, a lot more stronger. And talking about its ability, Mega Metagross's ability pairs well with base Metagross, as base Metagross has the ability Clear Body, meaning its stats can't be lowered by like a Pokemon that has Intimidate. And then Mega Metagross's ability boosts that non-lowered attack with its ability Tough Claws, making it hit extremely strong, as you can't really weaken Mega Metagross on the first turn. And also, Mega Metagross has a great type in Steel and Psychic, retaining its original typing from regular Metagross. And this is just a great typing that works together really well, better than Mega Mewtwo X's Psychic and Fighting type. Because Steel resists the bug that Psychic is weak to, and Psychic resists the fighting that Steel is weak to, making it a really good defensive wall, as that is where a lot of Mega Metagross' stats go to. It is a really strong, really tanky Pokemon. And this shows in Mega Metagross' competitive results. As in VGC, Mega Metagross was on the 3rd place team in 2018, and it was on the 3rd and 5th place team in 2019. And also in singles, it was in OU in Generation 6, and then actually got moved to Ubers in Generation 7, meaning that actually Mega Metagross got better as time grew on, which was amazing. Maybe if Mega Evolution had stayed around for another generation, it could have got even better. But that is just speculation. However, it definitely deserves number 8 on this list. And moving on to number 7, we have Mega Mawile. Now, like Mega Metagross, Mega Mawile has an amazing ability that actually pairs really well with Base Mawile. As Base Mawile has the ability Intimidate, which, as I said, lowers opposing Pokemon's attack. And then Mega Mawile has the ability Huge Power, which buffs, the Pokemon's attack stat to double. So, actually, Mega Mawile's deceptively alright 105 attack stat is actually a really good 210 attack stat. So basically, with regular Mawile, you'll have half your opponent's attack stat, and then Mega Evolving, you'll have doubled your own attack stat in just one turn. And that is bonkers, because that is just amazing. You have hindered your opponent and also boosted yourself in just one turn with one click of a button, which is insane. And like Mega Metagross, Mega Mawile's typing is one of the best types in the game, actually being better than Mega Metagross's, with his type being Fairy and Steel, largely considered, as I said, one of the best types in the game, because Fairy is arguably one of the best offensive types, and Steel is arguably one of the best defensive types. So already they are working in tandem as a great typing. And also, again, they cover each other's weaknesses, with Steel being immune to poison, which Fairy is weak to, and Fairy resisting fighting, which Steel is weak to. So again, this typing complements so well with each other. And tossing that on a basically 210 attack stat Pokemon, you are going to really do well. And this shows in Mega Mawile's competitive results. As in VGC, Mega Mawile was on both semi-finalist team and the 5th place team in 2014. And in singles, it was in Ubers in Generation 6 and OU in Generation 7. So, while Mega Mawile started off really hot, it kind of went down a bit as time got on as time went on throughout the generations, because Base Mawile isn't a strong Pokemon. So going off Base Mawile, you can't really get an amazing Mega Evolution. So that's why Mega Mawile, I think, can't be higher than 7th on this list. However, next up at number 6 was a really hard choice, but I had to go with Mega Salamence. Now, Mega Salamence, Base Salamence is already an amazing Pokemon, because like with Mega Metagross, it already has a higher base stat total of 700, coming off the back of a regular pseudo-legendary. And again, like Mega Metagross and Mega Mawile, it has two great abilities that pair really well together. So regular Salamence has Intimidate, and as I mentioned with Mawile, you already know why Intimidate is a good Pokemon, just to cut your opponent's attack stat in half. And then when it evolves into Mega Salamence, it gets Aerilate, which is an ability that changes normal type moves to become flying type moves, and it gets a 30% boost to its, normal type moves. And that was actually nerfed in Generation 7 to 20%, but actually Mega Salamence got better in Generation 7, going on to win not one, but 2 World Championships after the nerf in Generation 7. So maybe Salamence being too broken was a problem earlier, but I don't know. As I said, that's just speculation. But I do know that this Aerilate was sorely needed for Mega Salamence because it needed the best flying type moves, which obviously Salamence doesn't get. The best flying type move arguably is Dragon Ascent, which only one Pokemon gets, and I will get to that Pokemon later. So actually Aerilate boosting normal type moves and changing them into become flying type was a massive boost to Mega Salamence, because it also meant that Salamence could do well in VGC by hitting both targets by using a move like Hyper Voice, which becomes Stab, gets the Aerilate boost, and then is super effective against Pokemon that are weak to flying, all from a normal type move, which you wouldn't think was possible, but Mega Salamence made that ability go a long way. But, as I already said, Mega Salamence had great competitive results. In singles, it was in Ubers in both Generation 6 and 7, and as I mentioned, in VGC, it was amazing. It was on the 4th place team in 2018, but it also won that year as well, and it was also on the 2nd place team in 2019, and again, won that year too. So at Worlds, it not only won, Worlds twice, but in 2 years in a row, 2 consecutive years in a row, and it is the only Pokemon on this list to win 2 Worlds tournaments, which is insane. It is such a good Pokemon, and I was really debating putting it higher on this list, but you just have to know that the quality coming after this is amazing. So, something that I should have mentioned last time with Mega Salamence, every Pokemon now on this list has won the World Championships once. So, at number 5, we have Mega Gengar. Now, Mega Gengar is just a really good Pokemon. It has a really good typing of Ghost and Poison, with Ghost being super effective against Ghost and Psychic types, but more importantly, Poison is super effective against Fairy types. And I already mentioned that is obviously incredibly important because Fairy was already a really good typing, but Fairy was the type introduced at the same generation as Mega Evolution, which meant that Fairy was even more broken back in Generation 6 than it is nowadays. And if anyone knows about Pokemon typings, you know that Fairy is an incredibly broken type. But it was arguably worse in Generation 6, which is why Mega Gengar is so great. Because Mega Gengar could threaten these Fairy types, as well as not being threatened by Ghost and Psychic types. And you could just threaten as many Pokemon as you wanted to make them switch out safely, but Mega Gengar made that impossible. Because Mega Gengar has the ability Shadow Tag, meaning that an opposing Pokemon can be switched out. Apart from Ghost types, they aren't affected by Shadow Tag. But that meant that Fairy types couldn't swap safely from Mega Gengar. They were stuck in with Mega Gengar, and that just made it go on a tear. It was an incredibly good Pokemon. Mega Gengar is a glass cannon Pokemon, regular Gengar. However, it has a lot more stats, of course 100 across its stats, like every other Mega Evolution. But Mega Gengar put that to good use. There is hardly any stat that is not put to good use on Mega Gengar, and this showed in its competitive results. In VGC, Mega Gengar was on the first second, and third place team in 2016. And you might think that is already impressive, but that 2016 was the restricted format, the first restricted format when Mega Evolutions were introduced. So restricted formats means that basically you can have legendaries in your competitive team, and that was just bonkers. So for Mega Gengar to do so well in a format with legendaries, just, I think, already proves how good it was. But its results don't stop there, with it also being on the second place team, in 2018. So, again, it was just an incredibly good Pokemon, which is why it deserves number 5 on this list. Now, like with Mega Salamence and even Mega Gengar, this next Pokemon at number 4 was really hard. I even had it at number 1 on this list at first. But at number 4, we have Mega Kangaskhan. I mean, competitive Pokemon that played back in 2015 will probably shiver in fear at the name of this Pokemon. Because just take a look at the Pokemon used at VGC Worlds 2015. Yeah, you're seeing this right. Most of it is Mega Kangaskhan, which is bonkers. But why was Mega Kangaskhan so strong? Well, one was its ability, which was Parental Bond, and Parental Bond was basically a 50% buff to its attack stat. Because Mega Kangaskhan would get to attack twice with this ability, with the child Kangaskhan hitting after regular Kangaskhan, doing 50% of Kangaskhan's first attack. And in Generation 7, it was nerfed to 25%, meaning that Kangaskhan did fall off a bit after that nerf. But it just goes to show how powerful it was. Like Mega Salamence, it had to be nerfed, because it was just going on a tear without that nerf. And also, through this ability, it meant that Mega Kangaskhan could take out a Pokemon with Sturdy and Focus Sash in just one move. Because it hit twice, it would hit the first time, breaking that Sturdy or Focus Sash, and then hitting again to knock the Pokemon out. Because Mega Kangaskhan was doing that all the time, knocking Pokemon out in just one move, which is insane. And Parental Bond doesn't stop there with being helpful, because on top of this, it also made it so that Mega Kangaskhan had double the chance to critical hit, and also moves with additional effect had double the chance to activate, or if they were sure to activate, they would activate twice, which is why Mega Kangaskhan's move pool was so great with it. It first had Power Up Punch, which means that it would get the first buff from the Power Up Punch, and then it would factor into the child Kangaskhan's hit, meaning that would be buffed by 50%, and then that would also get the attack buff, so Mega Kangaskhan, next time it got the hit, it had already 2 attack buffs with it, which is insane. It later got taken away from Kangaskhan, but that meant that it was at least reasonable to go against. And also, the normal type is also quite strong in, actually, Pokemon, because normal type, I think, gets overlooked a lot. But actually, normal type is a type that almost no types resist this, only Steel, and hardly has any weaknesses, only being Fighting. And that just made Mega Kangaskhan such an amazing Pokemon. Of course, as I said, Mega Kangaskhan had strong competitive results, even ignoring its results in 2015 in VGC. It was just as strong in 2016, a little bit less, being on the 4th place team as well as the 5th place team in 2018 and the 2nd place team in 2019. So even though it took a bit of a downturn throughout its, existence, it was still an amazingly strong Pokemon, being in Ubers in singles in both Generation 6 and 7. So I think the only question is, not that Mega Kangaskhan should be on this list, but should it be higher? But now we are entering the top 3. What has to be the cream of the crop when it comes to Mega Evolutions? These Pokemon have to be amazing, and I think they are. Because at number 3, we have the one, the only, Mega Rayquaza. Now, Mega Rayquaza is the strongest Pokemon base stat total-wise, only to be tied with the highest base stat total, along with Mega Mewtwo X and Mega Mewtwo Y at 780. A completely bonkers base stat total. And you might be thinking, well, surely Mega Rayquaza should be number 1 on this list. You just said yourself, it is the strongest Pokemon. Well, that comes with a caveat. It is the strongest Pokemon base stat total-wise, and yeah, potentially it is the strongest Pokemon in a vacuum. However, we are going over everything. So let's start with, we've already gone over its base stat total. Let's look at its ability. Well, like the Pokemon before it, like Mega Metagross, Mega Mawile, and Mega Rayquaza, it has 2 abilities that pair really well together with Mega Rayquaza. Now, regular Rayquaza has Airlock, which turns off the effects of weather that are already on the field, so it can turn off like Mega Charizard-wise Drought. But then, Mega Rayquaza goes beyond that with its ability Delta Stream that turns off all weaknesses to flying type Pokemon, while also keeping the offensive benefits, meaning that it can use its flying type to great effect while also negating all of the flying type's weaknesses, making it, well, regular Rayquaza will be trembling in front of a strong ice type, while Mega Rayquaza won't fear it all too much, with that 4 times ice weakness becoming a 2 times ice weakness. And also, it goes beyond that, because Mega Rayquaza gets an amazing move in Dragon Ascent. As I mentioned with Mega Salamence, this is the flying type move it needed, because Dragon Ascent is a 120 base power move that lowers both defenses, but it is amazing because it's just a really strong move to begin with. But speaking of it, that is the only thing Rayquaza needs to Mega Evolve, meaning it doesn't need to hold a Mega Stone to evolve, which other Mega Pokemon can do. They have to hold their Mega Stone, but Mega Rayquaza just needs Dragon Ascent, meaning that Mega Rayquaza can hold a Life Orb to deal more damage. It can hold the Haban Berry to weaken Dragon type moves. It can hold an Assault Vest to basically buff its defenses and keep it around longer. It is insane that they let Mega Rayquaza go unpunished. It wasn't even nerfed later. And Mega Rayquaza just goes on to prove this, with it literally being banned in singles competitive to a tier called Anything Goes, a tier specifically made for Mega Rayquaza, and it being the only one in that tier in Generation 6 and 7. And that is just bonkers. Mega Rayquaza was too strong for singles competitive Pokemon. And of course, Mega Rayquaza had strong competitive results in VGC. It was on the 1st and 3rd place team in 2016, so that just goes to prove how strong it is. However, the reason why it is not top is because of just a couple of things. Mega Rayquaza struggled against Xerneas, which was the box art legendary of Pokemon X in Generation 6. And it was a prevalent Pokemon back in the days of Mega Evolution. I already said how strong Mega Gengar was, just to be able to deal with fairy types, and it dealt with Xerneas in an amazing way. However, Mega Rayquaza, Xerneas was just a wall to him, because it just wouldn't take too much damage from it. And when it's set up with Geomancy, it was basically an unkillable wall that would kill everything. And it was one of the big 6 in the days of Mega Evolution, with Mega Rayquaza being there as well. But Xerneas also being there just made it hard to deal with. And also, why it isn't as strong as in VGC as it is in singles, it couldn't hit multiple Pokemon in just one attack, which really held it back in VGC. But I just think it is an amazing Pokemon. Also, again, being a physical attacker, it got hampered by Intimidate users, and as I've already stated, Intimidate was a great ability and a pretty common one as well, which is why I don't think Rayquaza can be higher than number 3 on this list. But what are the top 2 Pokemon? I already struggled with, at points in this list, in number 2, Mega Kangaskhan, Mega Gengar, and Mega Salamence were all around these numbers. However, I had to go with number 2 being Primal Groudon. Now, Primal Groudon is an amazing Pokemon, already getting a huge base stat total of 770, which is already bonkers. But on top of that, it gains a new type in becoming a fire and ground type, which works great with its new ability, Desolate Land, which sets up harsh sunlight and boosts Groudon's fire-type moves, while also making water-type moves not work under Desolate Land, meaning that it's already negated one of its biggest weaknesses, being water types. Literally, they will not work under Desolate Land. And again, Groudon can deal with those because they can't cause any super effective damage to him, while he can do super effective damage to them with Solar Beam. As I already mentioned with Mega Charizard Y, that was just great against, ground, water, and rock types. And that means that Primal Groudon technically only has one weakness, being ground. And unless Groudon's Desolate Land gets replaced by another weather condition, is only got one weakness. However, that is really hard getting rid of Groudon's ability, because it couldn't get just replaced by any Pokemon's weather condition. It could only get replaced by Primal Kyogre's Primordial Sea, Mega Rayquaza's Delta Stream, and I think any Cloud9 Pokemon can overwrite Desolate Land. But that just proves how strong it was. And Primal Groudon showed this not only in both singles and VGC, but it was just amazing in both. In VGC, it was on the 2nd, 4th and 5th place team in 2016, and it was on the 2nd and 4th place team in 2019, as well as being on the winning team that year as well. And Primal Kyogre was in Ubers in singles, so it was just amazing. So, you might be thinking, well, what can top it? Well, at number 1, we have Primal Kyogre. Of course, it had to be. I mentioned Rayquaza, I mentioned Groudon. Of course, number 1 had to be Primal Kyogre. Again, like Groudon, it has a huge base BST of 770, with it getting an amazing ability, being a Primordial Sea, which boosts water-type moves and makes fire-type moves have no effect. Again, with only Primal Kyogre's Desolate Land, Mega Rayquaza's Delta Stream, and any Cloud9 Pokemon being able to overwrite Primordial Sea. And it was just great. Arguably, you're not going to be using fire-type moves against Primal Kyogre anyway, but its ability just made its water-type moves hit that much harder. And also, Primal Kyogre's move pool is better than Primal Groudon, which is why Primal Groudon is number 2 instead of number 1 over Primal Kyogre, because Primal Groudon is a more physical attacker and Primal Kyogre is a more special attacker. And just special coverage moves are better than physical ones, with them having more base power. Take for instance, the top electric special move and the top electric physical move. So in the special corner, we have Thunderbolt, being the one that is 100% accurate and does no recoil, having a base power of 90. However, the best physical move that is 100% accurate and also does no recall, is Thunder Punch at 75, meaning that Primal Kyogre just got better base power moves than Primal Groudon, with special moves just being more powerful than physical moves. And of course, Primal Kyogre would beat Primal Groudon in a fight with its just abilities and its typing. So, of course, is already an amazing, strong Pokemon. And if I haven't convinced you yet, just look at its competitive results. In VGC, Primal Kyogre was, well, it was on the top 3 teams in 2016. It was on all 3 of them in 2016. And also it was on the 3rd and 5th place team in 2019. And of course, in singles, it was in Ubers. So it had incredible results, being just so prevalent in VGC and singles. And to be honest, I think that gives it the edge over Primal Groudon. So that is my list. And really, I think actually from Mega Salamence, really you could have those Pokemon in any order, especially if you're not happy that Primals are in the first spot over a Mega Pokemon list, but they basically act the same. They have one item that allows them to revert into a better form and just make them more powerful. So I think they count on this, and I think that they deserve number 2 and 1 on this list. But you can put them in any order, and really, I can't wait to see if we get any new Mega Evolutions in Pokemon ZA, if they can overthrow Primal Kyogre. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this list. Would you have the Pokemon in any order? Are there Pokemon you think I should have on this list that I missed? And also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, also subscribe, and share it out. I will see you in the next one.